Je anilo premadano karma kacho
Namo Krishna Dear Shri Gurudev, Lord Krishna, please accept my most humble obeisances on this most auspicious moment of Vyasa Puja Kirti. Even though I cannot physically pay obeisances, I am paying obeisances with my mind and heart. I cannot describe in words how indebted I am to you. I was swimming in an ocean of misery before I came to you. But you were the expert captain of the ship who picked me up from the ocean out of your causeless mercy and gave me invaluable treasure called Krishna Consciousness. They say that Guru and Krishna mercy is causeless, and I think I can proclaim that I have experienced causeless mercy from Guru and Krishna. Today I want to talk about the mercy of Sri Guru. Before I go on, I would like to give a brief history of my past for those who do not know of it. I believe with my life examples, everybody here would realize the futility of material existence and the importance of taking shelter of Sri Guru. I left home when I was 15 to go to nursing school in South Africa. I trained for 6 years, and my ambition in life was to earn a good living and live very comfortably. My parents were very religious and gave me good guidance and instructions in life. The early religiosity was due to my parents' influence. After nursing school, I worked for 6 years and came across an ad for a nursing career in the United States. I applied and got accepted in March of 1972. I was alone. I did not know anyone in this foreign land. While working during the day in the hospital, I was pursuing a nursing degree in the evening, driving 90 miles each way to college, and graduated the nursing degree and had a successful career. Materially, I was doing very well. I enjoyed the so-called fine things in life. For instance, I had a cooking set that cost $3,500, which I rarely ever used. My health started failing because I used to work practically day and night in the operating room, and my nourishment was basically Coca-Cola. Meanwhile, I came to Sri Srivadakala Chandidam occasionally, just as a religious obligation. I was diagnosed with venereal ulcers, a very painful condition, which eventually resulted in the removal of my stomach in 1980. After the removal of my stomach, my health took a turn for the worse. I had to have further surgery to rectify my worsening condition. While even in this condition, I was working day and night in the operating room. All these miseries sometimes made me reflect on the purpose of life. If life is simply meant for suffering, I used to ask myself, Although I was materially well situated, I was feeling miserable. I began to realize no amount of money can buy happiness. Even the friends I had didn't fill up the vacuum in my heart. My health was so bad in 1988 that I could not eat anymore, and the only nutrition I had was chemicals which I was taking intravenously at night after 15 hours of work during the day. I came to such a desperate, miserable condition that I decided to end my life. Just before attempting suicide, I came to the temple to beg forgiveness from the Lord for the act which I was about to perform. When I gave the Sri Sri Prabhupada chanting, I received a clear message from them. You do not create life, so you do not take life. This really awakened me from the ignorance I was in. I changed my decision about suicide, and it dawned on me that all my material things were of no use to me, and there was not much more to life than just taking shelter of matter. I started coming to the temple more often as my miseries increased. Now I can appreciate Queen Kunti's prayers to the Lord to keep her always in distress, so that she will never forget the Lord. Of course, Queen Kunti is an eternally liberated soul, but she was playing the part of a conditioned soul. Now that I look back on all the miseries that were actually instrumental in helping me to think and take shelter of Sri Krishna, I started attending Sunday feast regularly and developed a taste for the philosophy. Devotees approached me and asked me to take initiation, but I refused. I was chanting some rounds, but without any commitment due to my long hours of work. I attempted to do some devotional service, and this gave me happiness. This gave me an impetus to go forward in Krishna Consciousness. I was very much at home when I was in the temple. I was beginning to realize the value of performing devotional service. I first met Ishvara Guru there in 1990 when it was advertised that you would be in Dallas and giving discourses. I was very uplifted by your classes and developed more greed for Krishna consciousness. Whatever you preached, I realized to be the truth in my life. At times I felt that you were personally addressing me in class. I used to wonder, how do you know so much about me? In 1991, I went to Vrindavan during Kartik when you were there. After avoiding initiation for many years, I could not avoid being initiated by you in Vrindavan on the first day of Kartik. You made me call the devotees in Dallas and inform them that I was initiated. The devotees were very pleased I had taken such a crucial step in my life. In 1992, my health had deteriorated to the point of where my doctors had given up hope. You gave me the instruction to give up my job and go to live in Vrindavan. I was thinking at that time, I would go to Vrindavan and leave my body within a month. But by some extraordinary mercy of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga, my health had improved by living in the Dham, and I was amazed how well I was. I started to perform parikrama of Sri Govardhan. I developed my health returned to normal, and I was able to do service in the Dham. By this time, I was deeply convinced that without total surrender to Guru, I would never attain the goal of life, Krishna prem. From then on, I decided I would fully dedicate my life to you, Srila Gurudev. Your instructions became the most important thing in my life. Guru Mukha Padmavakya Chitir Kori Aikya. After taking this vow to surrender to your lotus feet, there were no more anxieties in my life. I stayed in the Dham for 6 years and developed friendship with many wonderful devotees. At this point, I felt that I could not live outside the Vrindavan and also realized the invaluable benefit I had received from reciting in Vrindavan Dham. All this would have been impossible without your causeless mercy. Now that I reflect on my life, these so-called unfortunate events in my life were actually fortunate and auspicious because they drove me to take full shelter of Guru and Krishna. Now, in this material developed state, I am happy and blissful. This is all because of your mercy on me. Above all, there is one thing I would like to share with everyone. And it is without taking full shelter of Sri Guru, one cannot receive the mercy of Krishna and attain the goal of life. I would like to thank all the devotees here for their association and their prayers which have sustained my life. I am deeply indebted to them. This debt cannot be repaid, just as Krishna told the gopis that he cannot pay the debt to them. Thank you very much, Sri Gurudev, for all you have done for me, and thank you for making me realize the supreme absolute truth. Hare Krishna. All glory to Gurudev.
Hare Krishna. Bhaktivedanta. And now I'll ask if Mother Rasa again, if you could say a few words, please.
Here I stand unprepared, just walked in. I'd like to, first of all, thank Srila Gurudev for maintaining all these years through thick and thin, and being really a great inspiration on many levels. Even now with his study, he was saying this morning how he felt like a jailbird or a prisoner. But we all know that he's really a prisoner of love in whatever area he works. Also, I'm remembering sometimes, for example, in New York, 55th Street, the big grand temple that was unfortunately given up. But in the days of glory was when he was there with Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, who I don't think we mentioned this morning either, who was also a great devotee and inspired so many people. And those days are indescribable, really. Although this morning in the kirtan, I felt a taste of that. The 55th Street Temple was Prabhupada's desire to spread Krishna consciousness in New York. And there were hundreds, literally hundreds of devotees there. It was a 13-story building. One floor for the sannyasis, one floor for the guests, one floor for the brahmacharis, one floor for the brahmacharinis, one floor for the grihastas. an art department, a press, a store, a real theater in which we performed for Srila Prabhupada. Had actually, theater seats and a stage and the whole thing. And at the time that Gurudev was there, it was really, I think, the height of the Sankirtan in New York, and really the height of the preaching. And other times that I was with Gurudev was in Mayapur, and that was also in the days of Prabhupada's presence. And I just feel very honored to be here, even though I had no intention of ever coming to Texas. Somehow Krishna arranged that I was brought here and had a little preaching center in Austin, in my house with Greg over here, my partner. I just feel continued, I'll say again, just continued inspiration to stand here in front of my God brother, who has, I feel speechless. Anyway, I just feel very proud to be his God sister. Know that all of you have taken inspiration from him for years, and as I see all of you sitting here, even with him being so far away and hardly ever being here, that's his potency, that he's inspired so many of you to carry on this movement here in Dallas and in Houston and wherever everybody is from. Thank you.
Mother Rasagyan Prabhu Ki Jai. So I now call upon Tri Kalagyan Prabhu, Temple President of Washington, D.C. Temple, to speak, and after him, Sarvabhauma Prabhu, request that you may come and speak.
Namo Krishna Consciousness, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharya. Nirvisa Sasvini Yogi Paschatati Sabhavini. Vyasa Puja Festival P. Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj Ki. I just wanted to say a few words that Maharaj, you are a very, very inspiring personality. You have shown with determination and dedication to be a very devout disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And although I haven't had the opportunity to be closely associated with you, I want to reveal a few secrets that how I have been associated with you. So, I say it's very, very inspired by just hearing about your pastimes, whether you poured cold drinks over your head to make life members for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada, or whether you went to the Chinese regime to face the challenges, and so many other unlimited examples you said. They've all been inspiring for me. But for me, the most inspiring was that when I first became a life member of ISKCON in London, I got to know you through your sound vibrations. I used to hear your audio cassettes, and then I saw the gods and demigods video cassette. And that was the beginning of my spiritual life, seriously. I must assume that if you said unlimited time in the first month, I just thoroughly just enjoyed it. And then very soon after that, my wife and myself, we joined this call. And again, I kept this very secretive that as a life membership preacher, I had no qualifications, so I used to go to the house programs and I used to sing Jai Radha Madhava, and then I put the gods and demigods on. And then at the end of that session, I would take the pledge forms out and I just ask them to sign. So I used to get amazing results. And I used to be very secretive about it because I wanted to be, number one devotee. So you have a lot of credit with me, Maharaj, and I'm sincerely indebted to you. So as a result of that, I actually distributed many of those cassettes because as I was meeting people and then I was recruiting them to help me to fill in more pledge forms, I used to give them a copy of every cassette, and then it was like a network. So for many years I did that, and I'm really thankful to you. I had a great desire, a deep desire to meet you, but unfortunately I have to say that in those days there was zonal regime and we were kind of robotized and we had to just take initiation from whoever was there locally. So that was, I guess you would say, my fate. And however, Krishna was kind that in due course of time I was able to serve you in London and then in Vrindavan, and then there were short glimpses. And then you were kind to invite me to the new house in Goa. And I never forget that feast you gave us. It was a nice feast. And then you were also very kind to visit the Delhi temple. And I was really in ecstasy when I saw you, and I was so happy. But I also always remember the few words you said just before you left, and you just said, so now your desire is fulfilled. And I was really moved. I was so happy that actually you took the time out of your most valuable engagements to come and give us your blessings. So Maharaj, I just want to thank you for all the inspirations you've given me. And I also want to thank you for inspiring some of the devotees like Chaitanya Nitai and Radharani. And I have to say they're also your expansers, and they are very dedicated. And they're doing very good service there, and they're very much liked by all of us. And I would like to take this opportunity to extend an invitation to yourself and all your disciples to visit the Potomac Temple. And you may want to consider adopting this. We are really in need of some spiritual leadership yourself. And I'd like to even go one step further and invite everyone, including Srila Gurudev, that you please come and hold one of your Vyasa Pujas at the Potomac Temple. This was maybe a secret between Chaitanya and myself, but I thought we would do it in public. And please consider it seriously. Thank you very much, Maharaj. Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj.
Trikalagya Prabhu, please. I first came to know about Trikalagya Prabhu as the temple president of the New Delhi temple. And he was so liked by the people who would visit the temple that every morning there'd be a queue of people lining up to touch his feet. And some of the devotees who saw that became very envious. They thought, how could it be that, a grand disciple of Srila Prabhupada, everybody would worship him like a big spiritual master. But that was his nature, that he was so loving to everybody that everybody loved him and reciprocated so very nicely. So thank you very much, Prabhu, for coming to this temple. While you're coming here with me, it's certainly blessed. Hare Krishna. And so now I'll ask Sarvabhauma Prabhu to give us. And then after Sarvabhauma Prabhu, we have Rohini Kumar Prabhu.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Tamal Krishna Goswami Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Acharya Shri Sri Vasudha Krishna. So I've been fortunate the last almost 2 years to do some service in Cambridge, England, where Srila Tamal Krishna has been. The first time it began, he had finished with his big operation here, which was a very heavy experience. And I think the one thing that I noticed was how dutiful he is, in the sense that he had this huge backlog of emails, or maybe 7 months, I believe it was, hundreds of emails. And but he was going to get back into the academics, which was he had some momentum from SMU and everything, but it was quite a thing to get back into the academics. But before he would do any of the academics, he had a period of several weeks where he just answered so many emails. And he has a policy to answer these emails and to answer correspondence. And from what I know about Srila Prabhupada, I heard that Prabhupada was very dutiful. He would always be on time for meetings with people. He would often remember people's names. Things of this sort. And in my experience there, this is just one quality that I really have appreciated. And the other thing is, he mentioned about how it's difficult going out into the academic type world for a devotee that relishes the aspect of Krishna consciousness so much. But I can really understand, I think probably the devotees that have helped him when he was here at SMU, that it's very much of a preaching situation. Just in the same way that I think when someone goes out to preach, they encounter, like, say, if you're going to distribute a book on the street, you have to encounter so many opposition or arguments. So in coming to on the scholarly level, and the big brains in this academic world are so strong, and their arguments are so much more subtle and sophisticated than some Joe Blow on the street might come up with. But it's definitely a preaching situation. And the other thing is, in the same way that Lord Chaitanya, he was Krishna all along, but he took sannyas to get more respect in society. And this is a very important thing, because Vaishnavas, if they're not respected by the average people on the street, whether on the street or the academic level, then it's very unfortunate, because people cannot make advancement to Krishna if they don't appreciate Vaishnavas. So Lord Chaitanya, he took sannyas, and even the way that he took sannyas, he took from a Mayavadi, a sannyas guru. So it seemed like a dangerous situation, but actually, I forget the exact details, but somehow when Lord Chaitanya said back some mantra, I think, to the guru, and then the guru benefited. So it wasn't actually a dangerous situation. It was just a situation of Lord Chaitanya gaining respectability by going into this status of in that society, to be a sannyasi was brought esteem and respect. So at our time, one thing that came great respect is to be well recognized in society and academics. And if you look at our society, in general, sometimes although we have the highest philosophy, or a very wonderful philosophy, at least we can say, maybe I might be prejudiced, or we might be, but and Prabhupada set such a perfect example, but As followers of Srila Prabhupada, we haven't always been ideal representatives of it. And so, the status of Hare Krishna movement or devotees has not been always appreciated by devotees. But what I've seen is the same way that he started here with making this beautiful temple, beautiful restaurant, stopping some types of preaching activities that were more like controversial. He did so many things here to get people to respect devotees more. And in the same way, he's been, I can say one other thing is that even in the academic field, there are some very nice people that are about the same age as Goswami Maharaj here, that were favorable to different spiritual movements from they were probably in their 20s during the time Prabhupada was here. And many of these scholars are very happy to see a representative of ISKCON who is not afraid to actually share the philosophy of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, and not even afraid to encounter some of the challenges that academics bring. And for them, it's a very refreshing thing, and they benefit. And on another level, there are some academic people that are very, very favorable to ISKCON, and they're well-wishers, and they have a lot of wisdom to share. The Goswami Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, by entering the friendly, like Prabhupada said, if you want to join a service club, or like if one wants to advance in business, he joins a business club and gets that kind of sangha or association. So by coming into the academic field, it has allowed a certain kind of sangha, and some of these academics are very wonderful people, very nice. They have good qualities, and they're very dutiful. And they're very good. They have good thinking, dialectical thinking skills. So, I think one of the ideas of academics is to be not prejudicial, to kind of be. They have different philosophies, but that's one of the main points. And so it's a type of Samadarshana. Like if I study Greek culture or something, I'm not supposed to, and I'm an Indian, I'm not supposed to impose my Indian philosophy on the Greeks. I'm supposed to understand what they taught in their own life. And it's kind of like, it tries to help people not be in a false ego kind of platform. So I think many scholars who are very favorable to ISKCON have commented that ISKCON is not exactly the 60s and early 70s now. And ISKCON needs to think in new ways how to reach people and share this beautiful knowledge that Srila Prabhupada brought to the West. And they have nice ideas, and they have things to offer, and Srila Gurudev is, in one sense, I think some of these scholars because they're not in ISKCON, they can see things more clearly. Because if we're in something, we don't have that. It's one of the ideas that when the Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, he was more aloof from family and village society, and he could just say the truth. I mean, that's the idea of sannyas. Some of these scholars, they're actually well-wishers of ISKCON, and they have nice things to suggest. And so Srila Gurudev has also, I think, benefited by becoming maybe a little more detached from some of the ups and downs of the daily things that happen in ISKCON, and because it's really needed to think in very fresh ways how Krishna consciousness can grow. So I think that Srila Gurudev has benefited very much by putting himself in this position, although he may say it's like a very challenging thing, which I'm sure it is. But I can see many scholars are so enlivened to get his friendship. And one thing I've been very impressed with is his quality of balance. In our philosophy, it says that, like, the Bhagavad Gita mentions that a yogi doesn't eat too much, eat too little, sleep too much, sleep too little. And in ISKCON, I think there's been certain cases where devotees go to one extreme or the other, where they say that the material world is all Maya, and we are the perfect people, and we have the perfect philosophy. Or they relativize everything and become entangled in material energy. But I see that a advanced devotee, like Srila Gurudev, he can actually go into the situation like the academics and not be pulled down, but actually give his association and actually learn things from that situation. Like the Swami Prabhupada said, you can take gold from a filthy place. So I'm confident that he will gain from this, and that the academic world will gain, from him being there. And I think something he sometimes said is that if we don't take the material world seriously, then the world won't take us seriously. In the sense that sometimes devotees think that we're more transcendental than we are. There's actually stages of purification and development that we can make. And sometimes devotees think that we're above the law, the law of the land and things like this. And some of our processes of fundraising and tactics have sometimes expressed an idea that we're better than everyone else. But this is very different from Lord Chaitanya's mood of Trinati Sunichana, of being more humble than blade of grass and being able to respect everyone else. So I think someone that's an advanced devotee can respect others and not lose their own faith in their own tradition. And I think Srila Gurudev has been able to do this. But it's not something that everyone can do. Not everyone can meet these very challenging arguments and emerge without being affected by some of them in a way that's not good for their Krishna consciousness. So I'm very grateful for Srila Gurudev because before I became a devotee, I read some of Prabhupada's books and I read some of his life, but I didn't have the determination to change my situation I was in. And I've seen that he's a very strong and determined person, and he can push through when he wants to achieve something, he can push it through. And I think many of the devotees that have become his disciples and have on their own could not have pushed through and changed, made a change for the better in their spiritual life without his seriousness. And and one of the other things is devotees that have often thought that they're so transcendental that they can gain money any kind of way, but like in this Taoist community, Srila Gurudev has recommended that householders have good, honest jobs and things like this. And these are like sub-religious, I guess, I don't know if sub-religious principles or something, but like Prabhupada didn't go to Gurukul. He had European teachers, at Scottish Churches College. But he actually gained a lot of, some of them he didn't agree with some of their points, but some of them he really respected and learned some good things from. So, just by having an honest job and cultivate Krishna consciousness is something that can actually gradually purify the devotees and gradually gain respect for Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada talked about shooting stars that go fast, but and make a big splash in the sky, but then they fade out. So Srila Gurudev has not been a shooting star. He's He's a senior devotee who's been here a long time, and he's taken care of his essential duties for Srila Prabhupada as best as he can. And one thing he said, I'll just finish up here, but one thing he said in a lecture in Sarva Street Temple, London, they speak on the Lilamrita, and I believe it was in volume 1, and he was invited to give class, so he was reading some stories of Prabhupada in New York, which is a nice coincidence because they involved when he was there at 55th Street. And but there was some other part of the Lilamrita that talked. He said that some people say that Prabhupada was just so divine that he just kind of like walked into, got on the ship and then Krishna just arranged everything, which was true. But also, that takes away from the idea that Prabhupada was also a human being who made a lot of sacrifices, who overcame so many temptations. It kind of, it's kind of like, So I think also the idea that although the spiritual master is glorified and almost deified sometimes, the fact that he is a human being and that he has, for so many years kept his vows and answered his letters and, taken care of his responsibilities to his disciples and tried to do the best he can for a society that's very difficult for any one person to, if not impossible, for any one person to solve all the problems. But he's done the best he can, and he set a very wonderful example. And so I find that very, very inspiring. And I'm very grateful to still be a devotee of any type, and let alone to do any kind of service for him or the Vaishnavas. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. It's quite an honor to speak before such a respectable audience and from Srila Gurudev. It's a great pleasure. If every breath we take becomes transformed into a hymn and glorification of the spiritual master, our breath won't be wasted, but we will never come close to the appreciation and gratitude that is due. Personally, I'd like to take the discussion to a little different level because so many realized devotees came before me. I really don't have that sort of realization. I kind of have realization of whatever hits the plate in front of me. Such as, it's very difficult to understand Krishna, the bluish cowherd boy decorated so beautifully with the peacock feather dancing in the Vrindavan. It's very difficult. I basically leave that up to the great souls and read such literatures with folded hand and bended knee. But Krishna is so kind that he's given us the spiritual master. The spiritual master is sometimes difficult to see face to face because he's always busy traveling and engaging in different services around the world. We know this personally. But we're benefited at every moment by his community that he's brought. I would like to speak a little bit about coming to this Taoist community, Shri Radha Kalachandji Nam. The first time in 1986, my spiritual master, Srila Priti Prabhu, was here on a GBC meetings, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj says, "Hey Priti, where'd you get this guy?" And he says, "Well, he's from Dallas." Of course, I was from Fort Worth. He's from Dallas, and Gurudev goes, "Hey, well, he's one of us. He should come here. He belongs here." My Guru just smiled, didn't say anything. I had no idea how prophetic it was. Another little prophecy. There was a very nice brahmachari. You might know him, Narottam Das brahmachari at that time. Was running around, effulgent like the sun, doing every service possible. I thought he was temple president. I still think he's temple president. And his wife is now. But he was so bold. I was calling attention to him and just saying, what a wonderful devotee. And my Guru Maharaj says, what's his name? I said, Narottam Das. My Guru Maharaj said, oh, what a beautiful name. So, like a decade and a half later, we were coming up with some names, and my Guru Maharaj chose this name. I remembered that he had appreciated this name, Narottam. So I named my son. So indirectly, Srila Guru Dev named my son. And I lived right behind Narottam now. So Krishna has this sense of humor. We're all connected. I was living in Ireland, and I immediately started appreciating and taking advantage of the unseen tendrils of Tamal Krishna Maharaj's mercy in the form of Yudhisthira Prabhu, very munificent devotee, who had a devotee business here. Oh, worked in the Association of Devotees in Dallas. Radha Kalachandji is here, so many nice Vaishnavas. That was very nice. So I came over here and was settled very nicely. And of course, Radha Vinod, the ultimate Vaishnava facilitator, of course, he's not here. He's off organizing yoga or taking care of devotees or checking on the lighting or I think he sleeps with his cell phone. So he's also an amazing anga of Srila Gurudev. And of course we have Nityananda Prabhu, the eloquent savant, the ideal gentleman Vaishnava, so well spoken and so encouraging in whatever service you can or can't do. He's always supportive, and I can see he's a good captain for this ship. Of course, every captain is surrendered to the lotus feet of a good admiral, which we see here. I just wrote 100 or 200 pages. Actually, another instance, we were finishing up a lila in Ireland, a preaching session, and my Guru Maharaj was discussing some situations, some issues in Vrindavan, and he came back and he says, well, Tamal Krishna Maharaj suggested that we go to Vrindavan. So when Tamal Krishna Maharaj suggests something that has such weight that by his mercy we all went to Vrindavan and were able to take shelter of the Holy Dham there and launch on so many nice preaching adventures. I understand that my Guru Maharaj and Tamal Krishna Maharaj have very unique and varied perspectives. And all I can say is in the jewel, the multifaceted diamond that is devotional service, when Krishna sun shines through, you don't just see one color, you see many, many, many colors. And so Srila Prabhupada is so kind to have given us so many different, varied, empowered personalities. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Sarvabhauma Prabhu ki jai. Rahini Kumar Prabhu ki jai. Now I'll ask if Chaitanya Prabhu will speak from Houston. And then Manikundala Mataji, Manikundala Prabhu?
Not here.
Manikundala Prabhu? No. Okay. Tamal Krishna Goswami Srimati Tamal Krishna Goswami Prabhupada ki jai.
It was 1985 that you all will remember that old shoebox building in downtown Houston. We moved to this one road district. So in 85, we moved to this present Hare Krishna Dham. So I started coming to the temple, and in 86 we installed Shri Shri Radhanila Madhava. And Kalakan Prabhu was the temple president, and his son was ready to go to Gurukul. So he decided to move on to Vancouver, I believe he went to Vancouver. And Srila Gurudev decided to put as a temple president one of the Indian congregation members. And also he encouraged many of the members to come and participate. And suddenly we wind up in the governing board. There is a board which is governing the temple. So we become a member of the board, and we don't chant any round. I know a few of us were, Dinanath was taken away. So we were not much spiritually, you can say, qualified. So after in the board, so many subject matter comes and which would be related to the devotee's life. And so after a few months, Raghudev came back and so he said, so how is everything? I said, okay, Gurudev. Then I said, Gurudev, there's one difficulty, that I don't feel like I'm qualified to be on the board. It's very difficult. So he looked at me and he said, so be qualified. But that was 15 years ago, Gurudev. I can just truthfully say, I'm still not qualified.
Hare Krishna, Chaitanya Prabhu ki Jai. Now we'll ask if Mother Guru Priya will come and speak. And the Guru Priya. Yeah, Mother Shamala Saki. No. Please, Krishna Guru. We already spoke to him. Krishna Guru, please. Thank you.
Srila Gurudev Vyasa Puja Mahotsava ki. So generally I don't get this opportunity to speak and glorify our spiritual master Vyasa Puja. By the time this part of the ceremony is going on, he's had enough to say to me. He pretty much doesn't want to hear anything else that I had to say. Anything. However, I really did want to speak this time. He's brought up many interesting points Srila Gurudev has during the past couple of classes. And it had me remembering an experience quite a few years ago when I read a poem dedicated to His Divine Grace about Vrindavan and his absorption in Vrindavan and how he took us around and we went many, many places. And when I finished reading this offering, he was actually very pleased with it because it caught a glimpse of his mood of the time, how he really moved around in Vrindavan, was very dedicated and interested in absorbing the different places, the things that went on, the pastimes of Radha and Krishna there. So I was thinking that for one opportunity in my life, I had understood a little bit of our spiritual master and his mood, what he wants, what he's doing with his life, why he's doing it, and etc. So he was mentioning yesterday and then also today a little bit during the class about how important reciprocating in love is to this Vaishnava Siddhanta. And it's something that is unfortunately in a weakened state sometimes amongst the community of devotees. We see each other all too often as ordinary persons that are doing this to us, or that is happening, or etc. So I was just thinking if we could all enter into this mood as he's thinking, how much his godbrothers are helping him, his disciples are helping him, and others are helping him in his great test and academic, etc. That we could be a much more viable movement. Because as people come to see a group of persons that are actually engaged in loving exchanges, out of pleasure, out of respect, it will win the world over. Because it's not out there in the world. It's not out there in the material world. People reciprocate with each other only on the basis of what they can get from them, which is lust. It's a perverted reflection. So as ISKCON, as the Hare Krishna movement, under the guidance of our spiritual master, and etc., can present this mood of loving exchange amongst the devotees, so we can actually take over the world, as Prabhupada wanted to do. We want to have that kind of influence. That's what's required. And I can only pray to the lotus feet of our spiritual master and hope that everyone can join in that prayer that we will be able to do this under his guidance and actually affect the world. That there's suffering out there. We heard Kirti Mataji give her life story, how much misery she was experiencing. And look at how it's turned around. And I remember her in those days. I was just coming up some of the time, but I remember her in those days. You know, and now I see her now, and I just want to take shelter. She's being so merciful. She's attained so much Krishna consciousness in what we can say is a relatively very short time, because she took shelter of the devotees. And she's always assisted the devotees in so many ways in their Krishna consciousness, in their development of these loving exchanges. And it's such an inspiration. So I just beg you to please bless us that we be successful under your guidance. Srila Gurudeva Ki!
Jai Krishna Kripa Prabhu Ki Jai. Kartikeya Prabhu and Radha Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I'd like to say thank you to all the devotees here for the very nice reception and warm welcome I always receive. And it's one of my desires to always spend this day in the company of all the Vaishnavas and Srila Gurudeva wherever this celebration is held. So far I have been fortunate, missing one from the time I made that promise to myself. For me, what it means to serve Srila Gurudeva is dedication without, is 100% dedication without any questions of what I might want or receive as a result of that service. It's just so much pleasure really obtaining, offering service to such an exalted Vaishnava, devotee and spiritual master. I cannot even try to explain. I feel so fortunate to be able to offer whatever little service I can. And I feel if I can do more and more and more, that would be very rewarding. I never think I do anything or do enough. Before Srila Gurudev came to London, to Cambridge, I used to praise the radical Bhaktivedanta every morning and reading of the deity, and I would see other sannyasis come and other gurus, and they would be giving classes. Very wonderful classes, but every time I was hoping in my heart of hearts, why isn't it my spiritual master sitting on that Vyasa and giving that class this morning? And to my delight, Srila Gurudev has been in London with us over 2.5 years now, or almost 2.5 years. He's not every day on the Vyasa, but every day he's guiding our lives. And you reach right into the deepest recesses of our hearts and in mine personally. And the guidance you gave me is more than disciple, so filled with so much love and care and devotion in all walks of my life. In business, with devotees, with even just checking to see if I'm okay, since Katie has left and she's been here in Dallas. I was very touched when Srila Gurudev, you asked me in Houston, the Vyasa Puja before you started at Cambridge. When you come to London, I'd like you to look after me. And I thought, how is this possible? A very insignificant person who really knows very little. Only thing I know, I have great love for you and wants to do anything that would please you and everything. Practice spiritual life to the best of my ability. And yet, you were able to train me in such a way that I could never imagine possible. By phone, by being yourself, by being so loving, so caring, so warm and concerned, not only for myself, but for the disciples throughout the world. You touch on so many lives, even all the staff at my office. There is a lady called Jo, and every time Srila Gurudev would call for some reason to speak to me, Jo gets very excited. And she said, oh, it's Gurudev. The same for Mala. Every moment they can grab that phone and you just hear your voice. It's like their life is lit up really for the rest of the day. And that's what they keep saying all day. Oh, I've spoken to Gurudev today. They always say how respectful and what a wonderful person you are. And the same for Sarvabhauma. Jo is ecstatic to speak to him. She thinks he's got the most beautiful voice in the world.
Respect her just went down.
When you were actually, when you were coming to London, I thought, how can us disciples offer you any service at all with you being so far away? So I spoke to Ketida, who was in Vrindavan, and I kept begging her, please come to London. And then she came, and she was really very good with work on the phone. So I said to Srila Gurudev, Ketida is so good, she's so professional, she's so nice. It'll be nice if she comes and helps me. But really, I was cheating. I really wanted her to come to be there for you. And Srila Gurudev said, come and help Sham. So Katie, unfortunately, was dragged out of the place that is very hard to unearth her from deep in heaven. I'm sorry for having to wedge you out of there for all these months. And but I nevertheless was ecstatic to be in your wonderful association for all that time. It's like leaving a big void in an empty space without you being there. But you'll always be a part of my life for all time. I can't imagine having shared so very many close and personal moments with you. I feel very selfish in that way, and I never wanted it to end. And also I feel that you can't keep a good thing too long for yourself alone, and the whole world must benefit. So you, all the devotees here have had Srila Gurudev in Dallas, Houston for all the years, and I'm very, very, very ecstatically happy that we've been able to have him with us in England, and having not us looking after him, but he's looking after him. And I thank you for being the wonderful person and guru in my life that will never be replaced.
Shyamala Sakhi Guru ki Jai. God give it.
Shila Gurudev ki Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Tamal Krishna Goswami Namire. I remember when you gave me my name when you initiated, I was sitting up there. I don't know if you remember that, but you says, and your name will be Kartikeya Sans Italia, and you were like this, Kartikeya Sans Italia. I never forget that. Actually, I never told you, I'm really born and raised in South Carolina. I made up the accent, so I can get away with things. Well, when I came to this country, I didn't speak any English, so I thought that Taco Bell was the Mexican phone company. I thought the quarterback was a refund, you know. Anyway, there's so many things that come on my mind after 20 years of your association and tolerating me as probably your most hard-headed and unworthy disciple. I have the opportunity to have a very, very important and interesting realization in the past 4 months of my life. Because I have kind of a follow an instruction that you've been giving me for 20 years, which is why don't you just get serious and get on with your sadhana and your devotional service and so on. And so by Krishna's mercy, because and your mercy and Krishna's mercy, I was kind of lifted out of one situation and kind of being that into another situation where somehow or another I had to step up to that plate. And the result of my development of my sadhana and going to the programs and actually getting involved in devotional service, it was that I really loved it. It was wonderful. I just came to a realization, because Peter was saying earlier, how much time I have wasted in the past 20 years for not taking your instruction seriously, for trying to have the guru of my mind telling me what to do rather than your instructions. And I read some place that if your mind is your guru, you have a very foolish disciple. Somebody said. There is so many things that you're doing. There is so many things that you can be glorified on. Your studies, the society has been. Prabhupada came here as an older gentleman with all his culture and with all his knowledge, and yet he formed a society of young people, and they love children at the time. And so today, the academic world, or anybody could argue, well, what are your fundamentals? Where are they coming from? How do we know that the Vedas this? How can we compare religions? And so on and so forth. So I have absolutely no doubt, and I know you have expressed those doubts yourself, that what you're doing is the most incredible preaching, that you are building the strongest basis, not for us as devotees as much as for preaching, in terms of what you want to bring to the world based on what the academic world and the world they recognize as an authority. So that is I know the austerity that you are going through. And although I probably don't have the full realization of that yet, you move forward and steady on it, and the service that this means to Srila Prabhupada, his movement, and to Krishna Consciousness in general for the world is just is outstanding. There is no word to really describe it. Other people sometimes talk about that particularly in your case, that there was different problems, with Srila Prabhupada, you wanted to take over or this or the other. The only thing, my testimony to that is that I wasn't around when Srila Prabhupada was in this planet, and I didn't have the good fortune to meet him and to be with him. And I feel that I know him a little bit through his books, not much because, as you know, I'm not very well read. But the relationship that I have with Srila Prabhupada, and certainly I do have one, a strong one, and the love and the respect that I have for him is only have come through because of you. You have gained a relationship with Srila Prabhupada. It is your love for him, it's your service to him, it's your commitment, determination that from the big things, all the big things that you have, to the little things so attentively, like sometimes walking in the temple room and realizing that he has his glasses when he should be chanting japa, or vice versa. You are there like he's a real person to you. And I have many times given a relation to think. Sometimes I walk in and out of the temple carelessly without maybe offering obeisances, and I says, well, if Srila Prabhupada or Srila Gurudev will be there, would I be doing that? And you have taught me that he's always there, and that he's who he is, and he has given us what he has given us. Another incredible quality that you have is how personal you are with your disciples. You are embarking since I know you for 20 years, you've been traveling all over the world, you've been involved in China, in Hong Kong, in so many yatras, in so many situations, problems, challenges of all kinds, and yet you always maintain that personal relationship with each and every one of us. You knew what's in our hearts. You knew where we were. You sometimes chastised us. I even see that sometimes, Nandini, who have something in her mind, and we'll get together, and you will really give her the sauce. And then 2 hours later, you will pick up, the phone will ring at the house, and we will pick up the phone, and Sheila was there wanting to talk to Nandini to see if she was okay after that. I mean, how personal, what is more personal than that? I mean, so it's like a father with a concern of the children. I haven't, from you, had a father, my own children. You were my spiritual father, and I have taken on to your ideas and qualities, and sometimes the sternness, but always the love at the end that you talk about today. So I wanted to close this with saying that I want to read the instruction that you just sent me via an email in regards to this move to Puerto Rico, and this is something that I want to share with all the devotees, because all of us, although in different steps of our Krishna consciousness, we all need the remembrance and the encouragement of some things that are vital to our Krishna consciousness. So, my family and I, we considered to move to Puerto Rico, move our family, and we shared with Srila Gurudev, and he answered. So I'll pick some parts of the email, and he says, "You are both passionate people, and unfortunately have put so much energy into material endeavors that do not seem to have panned out nearly as you expected. Obviously, I am not surprised." Srila Gurudev says, "I think that you have made a great mistake. You have put your sadhana second to other things. If you will just reverse this trend, then all else will start to become successful. Or if not, at least you'll become Krishna consciousness." Srila Gurudev says, "Please trust me." How important that word in our Guru. Please trust me when I tell you this. And he says, if I move back to Puerto Rico, you can daily put your sadhana first, and then everything else follow. Then I think you will see your lives turn around 180 degrees, Prabhu. It's the word of our Guru. At the same time, so there you have it. You probably thought I would try to convince you to stay in Dallas. He says, no, I am most concerned for your Krishna consciousness. And I know he's also concerned about material well-being as well. He always been from the very beginning. When I joined, Nandini is the one that really saw the light in Krishna consciousness, and kind of between Srila Gurudev and Nandini dragged me into this community kicking, so to speak. Immediately, because I knew that I need to be engaged, and he connect Maturanath and myself with Matsi Avatar in Europe, and to see if we can do business and bring his furniture into here. He always was so personal, knowing my tremendous false ego, knowing how to deal with me, and he, thank you very much, he was here white gloves in dealing with me, because he knew my ego couldn't take anything else. And he was so careful in always giving me the instructions both spiritually and materially. So I will close this saying, glorifying you with everything I said, and asking all of you, Vaishnavas, devotees, God brothers, God uncles, everybody, that let's put our sadhana first. Look at what happened with Kirtila. Sooner or later we'll be in that bed, and it comes quicker than anything else, and we don't even know when. Let's put our sadhana first. Let's surrender to the Lord Spirit, Spiritual Master. Let's glorify Him and Srila Prabhupada, and let's bring the Krishna conscious movement to everybody in the world. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Namo Shivaya Krishna Goswami Tamal Krishna Goswami Actually, very difficult to glorify Shri. I think it's much easier to glorify the Bhagavatam, because there's so many quotes in the Bhagavatam that you can repeat. But to glorify Shri Gurudev, it's so much more difficult. But nonetheless, it's the job of the disciples to glorify the spiritual master. It's only through that glorification one can actually understand the position of the spiritual master. Very nice. So as Kartikeya Prabhu was saying how Srila Gurudev chastises people and so on, it just came to my mind how one time, I've been with Gurudev many years, traveled with him as his secretary, having cooked for him for a couple of years. And again, once in a while, he'll call me to travel whenever he feels where I am unfit to travel with him. In any case, I remember one time in 1993 in Hong Kong, he
he wanted me to do something, obviously, when you're with Gurudev, you bumble and fumble. And so, in my usual fumbling way, I fumbled. And Srila Gurudev called me into his room and, chastised me. And then after that he said, you're useless. And then he pushed me out of the door, literally pushed me. And then he even, he stabbed his feet. He actually kicked me out of the room. And then I went back to my computer and started typing. I didn't think of anything. I was just carrying on typing. Then the buzzer goes off on the phone. And I picked Srila and said, Radha Krishna? I said, yes. You know that the spiritual master owns the body of the bodily conscious, less thinking about myself, do I need rest, things like that. But he wanted me to see beyond that. Because, hey, face it, how many of us think that we are not the body, right? Theoretically, we understand that, but practically, no. So he wanted us to really look into this aspect very carefully. And it will be too late, when we are dying to think about all these things. It has to start now. It's because of that intensity. You could see how Srila Gurudev, this morning, he said he really didn't like the academia, but he wanted to go to the Dham. That was his first few words. He said, the first thing I want to do was stay in the Dham. And if you read Nectar of Devotion, you understand this is the mood of a devotee, a pure devotee. He wants to be in the Dham. He wants to listen to Krishna Lila. He's hoping against hope that Krishna will take him away from this material universe. Are we thinking like that? These are the questions that he prompts us to think about. That's his entire relationship with devotees and disciples has always been like this. And it always would be like that. He's kind to us, he's loving to us, because he wanted to show us actually the real love, the real pleasure that we're all seeking is beyond this material world. We can have the relationship, but only in Krishna conscious, in this material world. Unless we are Krishna conscious, our relationship is on a mundane platform. It's selfish, it's egotistical. He doesn't want us to be like that. Real love is, the true affection is actually Krishna consciousness. If you are in that mood, then as many Buddhists have already spoken before me, then that's the way we're going to spread quicker and faster. And this is a message that I feel that Srila Gurudev is wanting us to really understand deeply and have great conviction. We're all special. We wouldn't have taken up this process. And in having taken this process, why don't we take the other steps further? This is what he wants us to do. Don't stop. Don't hesitate. Take the next step forward. So, Srila Gurudev, I don't know how I'm here in this country. I was, as you know, I was graduated and I was doing very nicely. When I fix my mind on something, I don't deviate, and I wanted to do very well. I wasn't going to commit suicide or anything. But Srila Gurudev, he wrote to me nicely and just encouraged me. And then he just told me one day, this is how he said, do you think you'd like to travel with me? And I said, yeah, I don't mind traveling with you. He said, yeah, you can travel with me for 1 year. And look where I am now. He's very sweet, just like Krishna is so sweet, Srila Gurudev is very sweet. And I believe very strongly, we have to have full faith in Srila Gurudev. Because even if he's not physically there, he sometimes comes into your dreams to give you instructions. Sometimes he's with your God brothers and God sisters. And just like he says, he takes shelter of his God brothers and God sisters. And I've seen that in my travels with him, that he actually practices what he preaches. And he has told us to do that. And so, I do that also now. I ask all my God brothers and God sisters. And I find that relieves a lot of my tension. I don't have to make the decisions anymore. So it's a fact, actually. And then in doing that, you find that Krishna is actually taking control of your life. Otherwise, you think you are the controller, which brings us back to the false ego. So, I'm so fortunate, and I thank Krishna and all the Vaishnavas that you are my spiritual master. Hare Krishna.
would have liked to have heard some of the young devotees speak also. And each one of you, I'm sure, would like to speak. So I thought that you will not feel bad if there was no opportunity. There is this book which I would read every offering. But I'm also thinking about the fact that you're fasting. I already ate. I'm not any difficult. But if you're prepared to listen to more, then we can go forward. Because from my side, I have no problem. We have nothing really else to do today. And after we all get out of here and take those prashadam, then everybody will just, consciousness is going to go down. So if you want to go a little longer, then you can have a few more persons.
Radha Krishna Prabhu ki jai.
Namo Vishnudaya Krishna Goswami Srimate Tamal Krishna Goswami Namo Vishnudaya Krishna Goswami Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Hare Krishna. I met my beloved Srila Gurudev, my spiritual master Tamal Krishna Goswami, in New York, where I was living. And I met him, I was already a member of the Hare Krishna movement. I had joined because of Srila Prabhupada. And because in my great distress as a materially conditioned soul, I recognized in Prabhupada's teachings that the Krishna Consciousness movement offered me some hope. New York is a great city. They call it the Big Apple sometimes. It's huge and sprawling and crazy. And it's a hub of the world. So as we heard Srila Gurudev speaking this morning of so many dhiras, persons fixed in Krishna consciousness, exalted personalities, it was my good fortune to see so many of them come through New York City and speak the message of Krishna consciousness. And as great a treasure as that was, that opportunity to hear from so many exalted souls, it was also utterly bewildering. I was utterly bewildered. How can I choose a spiritual master? How can I recognize who to take shelter of when they're all so great? And I was really utterly perplexed. But I also felt an urgent need to take shelter because I knew that it's not enough to join the Hare Krishna movement, but somehow I have to become Krishna conscious. So I was racking my brain, and two things helped. When I would hear Srila Gurudev speak, I noticed that I felt that I was entering into some kind of understanding of Vrindavan. Somehow, whenever he spoke, I felt like he was talking about Vrindavan. Vrindavan is here. There's some, Radha and Krishna are real, and Vrindavan is accessible, and it's because this Tamal Krishna Goswami was speaking. And that wasn't happening so much for me personally with other speakers, but it always happened when he spoke. And I thought, well, I joined the Hare Krishna movement because I wanted to enter into that Vrindavan. And every time he speaks, that's happening. This must be a clue. This person must be able to help me become Krishna conscious. Because when he speaks, I do. And another thing that helped me so much was that I saw that these are selfish reasons I'm revealing, because really, as Tamal Krishna Goswami spoke this morning, explaining, I mean, these are all such great souls. How can we say one is better than another? It's not correct. But for me, personally, I could see that Tamal Krishna Goswami takes so much care of each person that becomes his disciple. And I knew that was a double-edged sword because I could see that he's very heavy. And I'm like a pleasure seeker, a fool, I mean to say, seeking pleasure in the wrong places. And I don't like to be chastised, and I don't like it to be shown to me that I'm a fool and that I'm making mistakes and that I have the wrong conception. And I saw that part of his boldness and his fearlessness in speaking is that if he needs to speak chastisement to you, he'll do it. And he'll do it very powerfully. And I didn't want that. But I knew too that I need personal attention. I need guidance. I need correction. I need somebody who actually takes the time to know me and to know everybody that he's dealing with as keenly as Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami does. So these things helped me to make up my mind and to understand. And he was so inviting with his mischievous smile, with his joking, with his words, with his being such a connoisseur and such an expert in every way. So this was some years ago, and I've tried to touch on a couple of other things that I think are very salient, very prominent. We all know that Srila Gurudev was sick a little while ago. And I want to tell you something personal again from my life. Some years back I was thinking, I hear, as we all have heard if we're listening, that we should feel attached to the spiritual master, that if the spiritual master were to depart from this world this day, we would cry inconsolably that my guru has left and I'm here. And when I was thinking about that instruction, I was thinking, I am completely deficient because I don't think that would happen to me. I think I'm such a hard-hearted, still conditioned person that despite all that he's done for me, despite all that my brain can understand about how great and deserving he is, I don't really think that that would happen. There's something deeply wrong with me. And somehow I'm fortunate to hear the clock ticking and knowing that I better not remain like that. So I did the only thing that I could understand to do. I prayed to Radha and Krishna. I think the thing that's wrong with me is I haven't done enough personal service for my guru to fall in love with him as a person, but more like as an idea. So I made that prayer, let me do some personal service for my guru and have some personal relationship with him so that I can have a heart that is in love with him and not just an idea. Then when he was sick, I learned that he wanted me to read to him every day. And I was quite amazed because I felt that he has so many disciples in this world who are more qualified than me to do any service, actually. And he's asking me to do this. And I could only suspect the cowherd boy and his girlfriend. They heard my prayer, and they were taking pity on me. And so every day I would read to him. And I think everyone knows that Srila Gurudev experienced in sickness things that all of us fear. Terrible pain, terrible distress of the body. And in that extreme condition, each day that I would go to see him, I marveled to see there's actually one thing that he cares about, to hear about Krishna. He was actually so debilitated at certain times during that illness that he couldn't really even speak. He could hardly walk, but he could hear. And so he wanted to hear about Krishna. He wanted to be Krishna conscious despite the extraordinary pain. And I could feel the concrete heart beginning to have some cracks in it as I was witnessing this extraordinary thing. Many times I feel that Krishna has answered my prayers, but this I thought was one of the most important answers to a prayer, because for months, every day, I would come and I would read to him. And I remember I mentioned how I feared to be chastised heavily, but I was chastised heavily one time because I didn't want to do my service. I wanted to go away to see my fiancée. And so when Guru Maharaj heard that, he was adamant, no, this is total Maya. And I thought, okay, I can't be disobedient, I can't miss my service, but I'm also trying to have this relationship with this person. I feel it's so important. So I ran away and came back in time to do my service. I thought I got the replacement for one day, and I thought that'd be okay. Such a hard feedback I got for that. But if I put it in correct perspective, I have a wife who is assisting me in my Krishna consciousness, who is a very strong preacher and a great teacher. Because of the mercy of my spiritual master, he made this arrangement for me. He actually he made it indirectly. It may appear that I made it, but actually he made it. I will attempt and possibly dig myself deeper. But I met my wife doing Sankirtan, and I was inspired to do Sankirtan because I realized what a mess I was making of my spiritual life years back. And I thought, there's only one thing that might save me, is to go out on Sankirtan. And that I'm inspired by Tamal Krishna Goswami. He's the Sankirtan general. For those who are out on the front lines distributing books, they think of the pastimes of Srila Gurudev and the Radha Damodar Sankirtan traveling party. I was so inspired. I thought, I've messed up royally, and I've really thrown myself away. But if I do some Sankirtan, I will become purified somewhat and get on the right direction. And then too, the personality who's now my wife, another way in which Srila Gurudev is responsible, not me. Well, I was trying to live as a brahmachari. I was a brahmachari. And Srila Gurudev one time called me in and he said, you know, you're living as a brahmachari, but I actually know that you have so many possessions, you have so many interests, you have so many things. It's a very peculiar renunciation, this renunciation. It's like not really authentic. Actually, maybe you should be in the Vyasa ashram. You are a preacher, but you're conflicted. And then he's such a philosopher too, and such an innovator and visionary. He was saying, you know, the paradigm is when you reach the age that you've reached and you've been through the experiences you've been through, you don't know, you don't consider it. He said, but I've seen that that's not necessarily the best prescription. And it would be very excellent for you if you had the right wife. He said, but nobody would marry you. No one would marry you, except that girl you're preaching to in Arkansas. So he's saying that he wasn't behind it all. I'm actually revealing now. And he asked me to take shelter of my godbrothers and Sarvabhauma and Kostuba were the persons he indicated. Actually, in his presence, I was very shy. And Kostuba, who was a brahmachari at the time, I was also very shy to say to him. But to Sarvabhauma, later, privately, said, yes, it's a great instruction. I think I can follow that. I'd like to say, I talked about how Srila Gurudev would bring me into Vrindavan. As a lonely materialist, one of my favorite habits was to walk through gardens. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and I would cut school when it just got too much, and I'd go to the Brooklyn Botanical Gardens. They have beautiful Japanese gardens and meditation gardens. And I would take some books of poetry there and I would read. Still, it was a materialistic endeavor, but I recognized that as a materially conditioned person, gardens and the beauty that they suggest and the peace and the place where I can study. So I've been walking through gardens and looking at other places. Now I have a companion who has the same proclivity, but we also understand about the garden world of Vrindavan, and that's the only real garden with actual beauty in it, and everything else is a reflection of that cheats us because we can't remain with it eternally. But I wanted to say a couple of other things, not about the help that Srila Gurudev has given me to become a whole person. but about this idea that he was developing about community, because I really feel that that's one of the strongest messages that he's giving us, is the sense of community. I've seen in Srila Gurudev that he keeps constant community with Srila Prabhupada through memorizing his books. When I would read to him, I was reading Chaitanya Charitamrita every day from Adi 1. And many times we'd come to a purport and Srila Gurudev would practically recite the purport. He would say, this says this, 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 this. That he's kept such close community with Srila Prabhupada that he's memorized Srila Prabhupada's books. And he's done more than memorize them as a parrot can memorize some phrase, but he's actually understood them. And then he keeps community with Srila Prabhupada by teaching Srila Prabhupada's teachings to us so that we can understand them. And then he keeps community with Srila Prabhupada also by exemplifying everything that's in the books, by showing by his living example that these instructions of his beloved spiritual master can be carried out because he's carrying them out. And likewise, he's keeping community with all the predecessor acharyas in our line and showing us that that's what we should do. And then, as he said, he's keeping community with his godbrothers and godsisters who, in the physical absence of his Guru Maharaj, are his protection and his shelter. So this message of community he's emphasizing again and again. And one thing I was inspired to say as someone who's preaching, I preach because right now in our married life, my wife and I are far from this wonderful, vibrant community that has nourished and sustained us and still nourishes and sustains us, but we're in abstention. So in order to have some community of real Vaishnavas, we're preaching all the time, hoping that some of these people will catch it up. And one of the things that my wife and I constantly share with each other as we preach together is that there are people who can catch it up, and they come here with us, and they're the most fortunate. But there are so many people to whom we preach, and they can't catch it up. And it is probably in large part due to our failings that we're not such great examples. But we know too that it has a lot to do with they don't have a spiritual master who is absolutely fixed in the Siddhanta of the Vaishnavas, who loves his spiritual master absolutely unflinchingly, and who, even in the most extreme pain, only wants to carry out the order of the spiritual master. So time and time again, we meet people who think that they're enlightened and very advanced, and who are not interested in Prabhupada's books or Prabhupada's teachings. And we might be fooled because they do so many rituals, and they have taken spiritual names, and they have immersed themselves, but they can't follow any strict principles, even that their gurus may be following, because there's no love of Krishna at the heart of it. So, although we're absent from the community here, we are always in remembrance of the community here, and we're trying to expand that community by our preaching and keep our heads above water by that preaching. And at every moment we appreciate, above all else, that our Guru is totally fixed in love of Srila Prabhupada, all the predecessor acharyas, his godbrothers, his godsisters, all of his disciples who he has named as his helpers and his protectors. And I was so pleased this morning when he was speaking that he included the children. Because I was thinking, if I was a little girl or a little boy in the temple room this morning, I might think, well, what have I done? Because I'm just a little kid, and I just really want to play, and I haven't done anything. And why am I in this august place? And Srila Gurudev, and this was the characteristic that in part helped me come to him. He's attentive. He knows how the children may be feeling. And he wants to tell them, what you've done, you've taken birth to come here because you are great souls, and I'm thinking of you because you're also protecting me. And I see you as great Vaishnavas. So, I want to finish, I think, by saying this. Mark Twain, the American humorist, he said something to the effect, and please don't misunderstand this, I'll explain. But he said something to the effect that, when I was 18, my father was such a fool. But now I'm 20, and it's amazing how much he learned in 2 years. Now, I never took it to Srila Gurudev. I could see right from the start that he was someone I could trust and put my faith in, and he could help me to become Krishna conscious. But as the years go on, I think I never knew who this person is. I never saw his abilities. I never understood. So I realized that I'm not yet able to understand, but I'm in the most fortunate position to be under his care and in his loving glance. And I pray to always remain there and in the loving glance of all of you, because that's the only way I can enter this Vrindavan that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us. Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami ki.
Nandini Shakti Prabhu ki jai.
Srila Gurudev ki jai. We're very lucky to have Srila Gurudev's association also in New Dwarkadam, Los Angeles. And coming from Los Angeles, I have a letter here from a couple. You might have heard stories of a couple disciples in Los Angeles that are in their senior age, or
2 days ago, yesterday or the day before, I described
do you have the other microphone? Yeah. Okay. This is a letter from Vidura and Manjari. When he gave me this, he told me, tell Gurudev that I'm thinking of him every time. So I said, at least 3 times a day when you chant your Gayatri mantra. And then he said, more than 3 times. Every hour, I'm thinking of him. So let me read this. Our most beloved Gurudev, please accept our most humble, frustrated obeisances unto your lotus feet. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and to Srila Gurudev. All glories to Sri Sri Guru Gauranitai and Sri Sri Rukamini Dwarkadish, and all glories to Sri Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra. Gurudev, we hope that you must be doing fine in your studies and must be also enjoying very good health. On the most auspicious occasion of your Vyasa Puja, Gurudev, please accept most humble, frustrated obeisances unto your lotus feet. From your most aged disciples, Vidura and Manjari, with our most humble and insignificant offering of 101 Lakshmi, in cash herein with Balaram. We both are confident that very soon you will be kindly visiting us at New Dwarka. As you did before, that makes us very happy to serve you with our heart's content at the very last end of our lives. Wishing you to be enjoying perky health and remarkable progress in your studies. We are your most humble servants, Vidura and Manjari. Hare Krishna. While I'm here, I'll just give a 2 cents. It's amazing that everything boils down to relationships. And this is the topmost relationship, guru and disciple, because it introduces you to our eternal relationship with God. So, in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Uddhava Gita, Prabhupada says that we should establish friendship and loving relationship with the spiritual master. So if somebody is very dear to me, I'd like to hug him. So when I was driving Gurudev to Santa Barbara in California, while driving I was thinking, how can I hug Gurudev? I mean, I'm rationalizing that I have a huggable body. If I was skinny, I should not even think about it. So, and I was thinking like this, and when I got his luggages out of the van, he immediately took me by his 2 arms. You remember that? He took me his 2 arms, and he took me up in the air like that. I was looking down there and said, Gurudev, you're not that young. And he said, I could carry you. So, really, Gurudev is incredible, very special. Our relationship with Guru is very special. And Gurudev being our Guru is 1,000-fold special. So, Hare Krishna.
You can always be sure when Balaram speaks that everybody is very excited. Yeah, Balaram Prabhu is so now we have Dr. Guru Bhakti Guru. She's coming in to speak.
I originally wrote a basic Puja offering to you, which I did not send. I originally wrote a Vyasa Puja offering to you, which I did not send. And I was thinking that maybe I'll just speak a few things from there. I wrote about when I went to England to help take care of Mother Gipita, who was going to have a surgery, and how you made all arrangements to take care of her during that time. I remember that when I was telling you about my flights, you said that you would come and pick me up at the airport. And when I landed, I was so shocked to see you waiting in the lobby. I couldn't believe that you took up so much time. And then you were revealing how you spent 2.5 hours just coming to the airport, then we drove in to see Kitida at the hospital. And you had taken so much, you did pay so much attention that even, you asked me to rest so many times during the ride. And you even brought breakfast for me in the car, so that after the ride I wouldn't be tired. And then after we went to the hospital, he showed me around London while we were driving. And then when we got into Cambridge, you showed me all the different historical places should be seen in Cambridge, taking the extra time. And Srila Gurudev was he was lamenting the fact that actually he cannot give as much time as he would like to some of his disciples, because the disciples who do the most service are too busy, and therefore he was lamenting that he cannot make the time, or there is not sufficient time spent with him. And I was thinking that just as we may have some desire to see Srila Gurudev, but just like Krishna, he has more desire to see us and give us association than we have. And that experience was very nice. We was just like a father, and showed me around where he lives and what he does. And then recently, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had been having some difficulty in my relationship with him. And I was so touched and shocked by the care and the attention he paid so that I can regain my spiritual health. I was thinking that the spiritual master has so many disciples, at least hundreds of them. And just this is Krishna wants every person to come back to Godhead. Similarly, the spiritual master, even one person is so important for him that if that person has difficulty in his spiritual life, it's willing to take up as much time as he can to help us come back. Heaven, thank you for not giving up on me. And I apologize for you for not being the type of person you to be. Thank you very much.
It's working. Guru Bhakti Prabhu Ki Jai. And now we have Srila Gurudev's mother would like to say a few words.
I hope I can manage this. My son once said to me quite a few years ago, he was sorry that he had to disappoint me and not bring me grandchildren. But he said, in a way, I brought you many grandchildren. And I can only thank you for being such a wonderful, large family to me, because that is how I feel when I come to Dallas. And I also want to mention that it's brought me many great personal friendships, and particularly one during the last year, and that's with my friend Kirsta. Thank you for being there for me.
Thank you very much.
Everybody feel what we have done? Some of you are think a little bit. What's your advice? Your advice?
Official day comes only once a year, so I give you so much negative advice.
Okay, let me done moments. don't know I'm instructed to prison that I know.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Staya Padaya Krishna Tamal Krishna Goswami Prabhupada. Well, it's been a while. Let's see, how do I start? And somehow, Srila Gurudev had the judgment that I was able to serve. And I will never forget the way the invitation to service came to me. I was living in Mexico, and it was about 11 o'clock at night. I was on the bus coming back from Mexico City to home, and my cellular phone rings.